Question number 12, all 4 points we had done. Can anybody tell? Please refer the last class, whatever we had done.
Yes, sir, it's done. So we have done question number 12.
All 4 points, over absorption and under absorption also.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So in that question number 9. Okay, tell me the route. Labor cost is calculated na, for how many hours the laborers have actually worked, right? So laborers have worked for 80,000 hours and the rate per hour is 17.50. This is the labor rate. That will be the total labor cost. Okay, actual labor cost. And that has got nothing to do with this. Now see, in this question, see, while teaching this first chapter, I told you that relevant cost and irrelevant cost. Similarly, in a situation, in a real life situation, you will have a lot of information, right? So you have to take the information which is of your use and leave the information which is not of your any use, right? So here in this question, if you are taking direct labor hour as the basis, then you will only be looking these two things into taking these two things into consideration. One is the budgeted direct labor hours and the actual direct labor hours, right? So while calculating the POHR, you will take the total budgeted manufacturing overhead divided by the budgeted labor hours, 75,000. Okay, so that will be your POHR. While applying, you will be applying that POHR with the actual labor hours, 80,000. Okay, and that you get whatever is the manufacturing overhead which is absorbed, right? So you apply it on the basis of actual, and for doing all the jobs during the period, you have consumed 80,000 labor hours. So for every labor hour, you whatever is your POHR, you apply the manufacturing overhead. That is the total manufacturing overhead applied, and this is the total actual manufacturing overhead incurred. Applied and incurred, you have to compare to find out whether it is over applied or under applied. Okay. All right. So in question number 12, we had done two overhead rates. We have calculated two overhead rates because two departments are oriented differently. In one department, we have taken machine hour as the basis, and in the other department, we had taken labor cost as the basis, right? And by doing this, we can get a more accurate cost. But I am not saying that we'll get the 100% accurate cost, but we'll get more accurate cost if we are allocating it on the basis of different basis for two different departments or three different departments. So there is a chance of getting a more accurate cost by doing this, right? But even then, still after doing this, there is chance that we may not get the actual overhead cost for different jobs or correct overhead cost for different jobs, and that is because of various reasons. Okay, one of the reason which I would like to tell you here is when I say we calculate this POHR. When we calculate POHR, we use a formula called estimated manufacturing overhead divided by estimated labor hour or machine hour or labor cost, whatever. Now, when we take this estimated manufacturing overhead. That manufacturing overhead is consisting of all factory related expenses, starting with rent of factory building, insurance of factory assets, security charges, depreciation of machinery, power consumption, maintenance, indirect material and labor. All these are added to find out the estimated manufacturing overhead. And then you divide it by labor hour or machine hour. The assumption is that when labor hour increases, this manufacturing overhead also increases. So a product which is consuming more labor hour will also be allocated more manufacturing overhead or machine hour. More manufacturing overhead will be allocated to that product. That is the basic assumption. So if I take, for example, machine hour, I can understand that depreciation of machine, power consumption, and maintenance of machinery, etc., are highly related with machine hour. So machine runs, that means production is happening, you incur these expenses. So it is good to charge your these expenses on the basis of machine hour. But when it comes to rent of factory building, insurance and security charges, which is also part of your total estimated manufacturing overhead, I don't see any reason, or I don't see that driving factor. The machine hour is not the driving factor. If production is happening, machine hour is more machine hour or less machine hour is incurred in a particular period of time. Rent of factory building, insurance of factory assets, security charges, etc., doesn't get affected because of the machine running. But when you calculate the manufacturing overhead, when you take this estimated manufacturing overhead, you take everything, whatever comes or incurred in the factory. So these expenses are not driven by machine hour, neither driven by labor hour, not driven by the labor cost, but you are taking the basis and you are charging it to a product. So there is a chance of error because of this. There is a chance of undercosting and overcosting because of this, right? So, and this can lead to a greater change in cost estimation or overcosting or undercosting if this amount is significantly high in this total manufacturing. Okay, and that will lead to undercosting and overcosting, and we all know that what is the problem with undercosting and overcosting. Undercosting means, and undercosting, if undercosting happens with some of the product, overcosting will happen with the other product because your total cost remains same. If you are not charging to some product, you will be charging more to some other product. So if undercosting happens, then overcosting will also happen. So some of the product where you will be doing undercosting, you will be selling at a less price, you will be getting less profit, but you may not be knowing that this is happening because you estimated the cost, while the actual cost is more. In case of overcosting also, you fix a price which is more because you think that your practice is to take 30% or 20% over the cost, and you fix the price, whereas you would have taken 40% or 35% because you don't know the cost. There is overcosting, so there is a chance of losing the customer. Now these issues we have to avoid so that we can fix the price correctly and we will be knowing that what profit actually we are earning, right? So this is what I said, one of the reasons. There are many other reasons for which the allocation of overhead using this POHR may not be the best method. Now, how will you know, or what are the reasons which forces us to think for having a better method of costing, right? And should we go for a better method? Like activity-based costing method is definitely, no doubt, it's a better method. Should we go for this method or not? That also we have to take a decision. So what are the reasons for going for activity-based costing? One of the reason is that if we are having diverse products, if we are having various types of products in our the products we are manufacturing, if we are having various types of products, then in that case there is chance of undercosting and overcosting, because some of the product which will be charging more, consuming more resources, we may not be allocating the cost to those products. So that can happen. It can also happen if our indirect cost is significantly high. If our indirect cost is very high, then also in that case there is chance that this problem may occur of undercosting and overcosting. And we should also go for activity-based costing if the market is very competitive. Because if it is competitive market, if you sell the product at a little higher price, nobody will buy it from you. If you sell it at a little less price, everybody will buy it from you. And in the process, you will be losing your profit without having the knowledge that, yes, you are losing the profit. So these are the basic 3-4 forcing reasons for which we think of shifting from our traditional method of costing to activity-based costing. Okay, so one of the example I gave, like rent of factory building, etc., are not driven by any activity, but we are charging it on the basis of POHR, machine hour, labor hour, which is not the correct method. Okay. All right. So just give me one. Okay. In case of traditional method of costing, what happens? We divide it into different departments and then we take different bases. In some case we take labor hour, some case we take machine hour, and then we charge it to the product or job. In the case of activity-based costing, what we used to do, we divide, instead of dividing it into departments, we divide it into activities, and then we make different activity pools. What is activity pool? Activity pool is a bucket where we write different types of activity or different types of expenses which is driven by one particular activity driver. Okay, so what is that? How do we do that? Now, in this bucket, which I put here, depreciation of machinery, power consumption, maintenance. Now, this bucket or this pool, I term it as one activity. What activity name I can give it for this? Can anybody tell?
Overhead activity.
It is part of the overhead activity, but I name it as machining. Okay, I name it as machining because this is depreciation of machinery, This is power consumption of machinery. This is maintenance of machinery. So I name this activity as machining. And can anybody tell what drives this machining cost? Means depreciation, power consumption, maintenance. Depends on what? Depends
Time.
on
Time period.
machine hour. The time consumed by the machine hour, machine running time. So this is the activity cost pool. This is the activity. So if I see it is say 10,000, and here if I say 100, that means if machine runs for 100 hours, the machining cost will be 10,000. So per hour it is 100. So what I have done here, instead of putting a blanket kind of overhead rate, taking all expenses of the department under one group, I divided into different activities and then tried to find out that what drives the activity. For example, material handling. Material handling expenses incurred in store. Material handling expenses doesn't depend on machine hour or labor hour. It depends on what? Number of
your labor.
Number of material requisitions. Right? Number of material requisitions sent, they have to get all the material at place and then they have to send it to the production department. So it depends on number of materials requisitions. Similarly, for example, if I give one example, some of you went to KFC, right? And then one person who was in front of you ordered first, and he ordered for one bucket of chicken, what? Wings. Okay. And then you ordered 3 because 3 friends were going. 3 buckets. The person who is preparing the bill, the ordering cost to him or the billing cost to him is same. So billing cost is not depending on the quantity you are buying, is depending on the number of orders you are placing. If you prepare 3 times you place the order, the billing cost will. So one of the cost is say billing. Billing doesn't depend on the quantity or volume you are purchasing. Rather, it is depending on the number of orders you are placing. Okay. But packing cost is something which depends on number of buckets you are buying. Right? Preparation cost is something which again depends on quantity you are buying. So different costs are driven by different cost driver. But if I take for the whole expenses, I just divide it by the orders or quantity. Then in that case, what will happen? While calculating the cost we are incurring for a customer, we may be incurring more for charging less to the customer. Okay. So what strategy you are following for charging it to the customer, that's a different thing. But we need to know that how we are incurring the cost actually, so that we can control our cost to some extent. It will help us to estimate our expenses, and it will help us to strategize or design or plan. See, when they give some kind of offers, like you buy one bucket, you get these things free, something like that. It is based on some kind of cost estimation, right? So there is a strategy. The complete strategy works behind it, and why it is on a particular date or day. there is also something goes behind it for offering on a particular day. So these are the things you can do if you understand that what activity actually drives the cost. So therefore, we have a better method of costing, which is called activity-based costing, and 30%, 30 to 35%, 40% companies are following this activity-based costing. Why 60% companies are not following this activity-based costing? The reason is that it's very expensive way of estimating the cost. Very expensive. Very expensive. And very time consuming. Lot of involvement is there. Lot of involvement. And one person cannot do it. You have to make a committee consisting of people from production, store, sales, accounts, purchase, and then you need management support. And everybody knows that if you want to bring some change, 50% of the people will object to those changes. They don't want to do any changes because if you change something, it puts them into some kind of discomfort. So getting the support of everyone to apply this method of costing is also a big challenge. And at the same time, it is very time consuming, it is very expensive. Why it is time consuming? Because you have to identify all the activities. So you have to observe for months. You have to observe for months to arrive at what are the different activities you are doing, and then putting those activities into cost pools. Okay. And then identifying the cost driver or activity driver. These things takes a lot of time. But many companies are going for it. Large scale, big companies are going for it because they understand the benefit of using this better method of costing. Okay. So while designing an activity-based costing in an organization, what are the steps we follow? We follow these steps. First, identify the major activities that take place in organization. There will be hundreds of activities, but you have to bring it down to less numbers, say 20 activities. Assigning cost to cost pools. Then we collect cost in a different way. How do we incur cost? We pay salary. We incur depreciation. We pay maintenance. We pay supervisor salary. We incur expenses for stationery. This is how we incur the cost. Now these costs are to be allocated to the cost pools. How much is machining cost? Okay, so maybe depreciation is consisting of furniture and machining, 90% furniture. So transfer 90% to machining. Maintenance is again 20% for rest of the things, 80% is for machining. Transfer 80%. So this is how you have to allocate it to cost pool. Okay, you have to allocate it to cost pool. Then you have to identify the activity driver or cost driver. Then you find out the cost driver rate and then apply to the jobs. What is the difference? Earlier, what we were doing for different cost center, that means departments where cost is incurred. We first allocated to department. Say one finishing department, one cutting department, blending department. Then you find out the basis. Then you find out POHR. Then you apply it to the job. Here what you do, find out the activity, then to activity cost pool, then the driver, then the rate, and then you apply it to the job. The other difference between the traditional method of costing and activity-based costing is In case of traditional method of costing, we take manufacturing overhead while finding out the cost of the job. But here, while finding out the cost, we even take some of the period costs, some of the administrative expenses, and some of the selling expenses also, and ignore some of the manufacturing expenses. Okay, how do we do that? So that we will be learning today, how we do that. If I say rent of the building, which I was discussing at the beginning, rent of factory building, insurance of factory assets, security expenses, and I said that there is no driver. Do you see any driver here? It's driven by something. Is there any activity which drives them? Is there any activity? No activity. So you can't charge it to the product. See, all expenses are recovered. Remember, all expenses are recovered. Either you recover it from your margin or you charge it as part of inventoryable cost. But in case of activity-based costing, these things don't become the inventoryable cost. These are treated as we treat in the case of period cost. They are not part of the product cost. Because there is no cost driver, how will you allocate it? What is this then? This is organization sustaining activity. If you want to have a factory, you have to take it on rent or you have to construct on your own. Canteen, administrative department, all are organization sustaining activity. So this you will be hearing for the first time. What is organization sustaining activity? Now this organization sustaining activity is to be deducted from your margin. Okay. So what we do in case of activity-based costing, we have got different levels of activities. So there are 5 levels of activities. Unit level activity, the activity and the cost which moves where there is change in unit level. For every unit you incur some cost, like power consumption. Power consumption is an unit level activity. For every unit you consume electricity, or for every machine hour you consume electricity, unit level. The second one is the batch level activity. For example, if I take one example of, say, this manufacturing of marker, and I'm manufacturing 4 colors of marker: black, blue, red, and green. So once I set up the batch and I manufacture, at a time I manufacture one particular color. If it is black, I manufacture all black markers. If it is blue, I manufacture all blue marker at a time. So it is never like one black, one blue will come out of a batch. A batch will be of a particular type of product. And for setting up the machinery for that, I take some time. So that's a batch level. That doesn't vary for units. In a batch, you can manufacture 50, you can manufacture 500. But you incur one setup expenses. How is it in the case of marker? For example, you manufactured black markers first, black ink markers first. So in the container, you will have all black ink. Now the second, if you want to manufacture, say, red ink marker, then you have to completely clean that container and put there the red ink, and then the process will start. So this setup cost is for batch. So it's a batch level activity, right? Then there are some activities which has nothing to do with units and batch. Like I want to introduce a new product. So Colgate Salt. And if I want to introduce, I have to do advertisement. So the advertisement expenses I incur for introducing Colgate Salt in the market is a product level activity. For that particular product only, you are not doing it for all the toothpaste you are having. You're doing it for one particular. So the cost incurred should be charged to that particular product. Okay. And then you try to recover from the customer. And this is how you estimate the cost, and this is how you keep an eye on the cost you are incurring. And you see whether a particular product is profitable or not. Right? So this is called product level activity. I'm just what I'm doing, I'm dividing and I'm showing that what other activities we are doing depends on what. The other one is, for example, it's a specialized chemical company, manufacturing company. So we manufacture chemical products and we sell it in our domestic market. All of a sudden, the company got an order from a Singapore-based company. Right? Now, if you have to supply the product to a Singapore-based company at Singapore, then what you have to do, you have to package it in a proper manner, proper way. So that packaging cost is it a unit level cost? No, every unit is not having this cost. It's a customer level cost. The shipping cost you incur is a customer level cost. Can you divide this shipping cost among all the product? No. If you are doing it, that means you are charging more to your domestic people and you're charging less to the people those who actually incurring the cost. So the shipping cost you will be charging it to the Singapore company. That's a customer level activity. Then comes the organization sustaining activities. There are some of the activities which are organization sustaining. For example, heating of factory, rent of factory as we discussed just earlier, cleaning executive offices, administrative expenses, right? Fees paid to director, research and development if it is a regular feature of the company. It's an organization sustaining activity. And these activities you cannot charge it to a product. Okay, these expenses you have to recover from the margin you will be having. So once we find out the cost of a product, please remember this. You find out the cost of a product and then you keep a margin, and your margin should be sufficient for a budgeted volume that it recovers your organization sustaining activity in case of activity based costing. And same in the case of traditional based costing, your margin should be sufficient enough to recover what? Who will tell? In case of traditional method of costing, your margin should be sufficient enough to recover
estimated overhead cost.
Which overhead cost?
Estimated overhead cost or the total overhead cost.
Not total overhead, because manufacturing overhead you already have charged to the product. Over that product cost, you take a margin, then administrative and selling expenses, period cost, right? Here in case of activity based costing, that margin should be sufficient to recover the organization sustaining activities, right? So this is the primary difference between these two methods, activity based costing and traditional based costing. Activity based costing no doubt is a better method, but as it is time consuming and expensive, many companies doesn't like to go for it. Okay, because it is when they do that cost benefit analysis, the benefits are less than the cost, right? Okay.
Sir, in cases it can be seen that the particular product may fall in different activities. A particular product for different activities? Is it possible?
Abhik, I could not hear you. You can switch off your video and then speak. Possibly, it will be. Yes.
Sir, is it possible that a particular product or suppose new thing, it falls under two different activities at the same time?
Anybody else can tell what he asked? Two activities. I did not get in between actually. So what did you say? Can you write it down, because there is a lot of disturbance in hearing. Okay, let him write. So till then, if anybody is having any question, otherwise I will have some questions which I will ask. No question? Yes. Is it possible a particular thing falls under two different activities? No. Any activity you say, we will see it whether it is either coming as a batch level or unit level or product level. When I say batch level, for every batch you do that activity and you incur the cost. When I say unit level, for every unit that activity is done, for example, material consumption. Material consumption is a unit level activity. But cleaning the container is a batch level activity, because after completing one batch may be consisting of 500, may be consisting of 5,000 units. Once you complete that batch, you go for that cleaning of the container. Right? In the case of production plants, assembly lines, etc., once the shift changes, one shift changes. In most of the manufacturing companies where production happens throughout the day, they will have around 8 hours shift. After each and every 8 hours shift, there is a the production completely stops, and then the new people will join. So they set up the machinery, and power consumption all of a sudden increases because all the machines stop working and then again start. So that's a batch level activity. Okay. Ask me if you are having any other question. Okay, one question. A new product shipped to abroad, it falls under both product level and customer level. It falls, okay, let me find out what is the answer the students are giving, your friends are giving. So through chat, please answer it. Is it product level or customer level? Okay. All right. Many of you are saying that this is a customer level activity. Yes, it is a customer level activity, because product level activity is like yes, I'll give one example. one customer orders a specific design of a product, what particular product which is to be designed in a particular way. So a die is prepared for that type of product. Okay. Now, once you design that die, and then you can sell it to that customer as well as you can sell it to other customer. Then it is a product level activity. But if that die is only prepared for that customer and thereafter it is not having any use, becomes a customer level activity. Okay, if you can use that die for producing more similar kind of product and sell it in the market, then it's a product level activity. Otherwise, it's a customer level activity. What benefit you are having once you prepare the die, you can ask the customer that, see, our engineers have worked on preparing the die, so the cost you have to incur. You have to bear the cost. You can recover that money from the customer, but later on you can use that die for producing similar kind of product. Okay, but you can always recover that. Okay, I am having one question. The vaccines developed during COVID by different pharmaceutical companies is what kind of the expenses incurred for developing vaccine specifically for COVID is what level of activity? Okay, so many of you are saying that this is a product level activity. All right. Now I am adding one more thing. If it is a product level activity, how will you recover this cost? Because investment is very huge, no? Very huge amount of investment has been done for developing the vaccine. A lot of processes are there, technicalities are also there, and their company has to spend time as well as a lot of money. So as you are saying that it's a product level activity, now you tell me, how will you recover this money from the How we will recover this? Not through chat, but you have to answer, raise your hands, those who can add some or having some kind of idea. How will you recover this money? Okay, Ashish, you say, how did you say, means, for example, I incurred, say, 50 crores of rupees. Okay, in developing this. So how will I recover this?
Sir, by selling the booster dose, like in future, will acquainted the customer that you have to take that dose, otherwise you will affect in future. So that will increase the demand, and in that demand will increase the product cost, and that will incur the.
So how much will you charge to a customer? How much will you charge? First customer, suppose I go for having the vaccine. How much will you charge to me? Yes, Bhaskar, you tell. So in this context, see what is happening. It's a product level activity. For developing the product, you have incurred the cost. You have spent 50 crores. So you cannot ask the first customer to pay 50 crores because I have incurred 50 crores. You can't ask 100 customer to pay 50 crores. So how will you recover this money? So you will recover this money by estimating the or forecasting the demand for the product, keeping your production capacity into consideration. So you see that you can sell 10 lakh units in a period of say 3 years, because after 3 years it will be of no use, because people will have developed their antibodies and they may not be going for any vaccine, or their competitors will be ready with other vaccines or other kind of medicines. So this is of no use. You forecast that 10 lakh vaccines can be sold. You divide that 50 crores by 10 lakhs, and you find that 500 rupees for this expenses I will charge to each and every vaccine. 500 plus your operating expenses, plus your marketing expenses, plus your profit margin. That is how you will charge it. So it's a product level activity. Okay. So for that product, you cannot. And in the same context, I would like to add one more question so that you will have better clarity. In pharmaceutical department or pharmaceutical division companies, research and development is a regular feature. And every year they spend some amount of money on research and development. And the end result may be development of a new formula or new product, or may not be having any new product. What about this regular development expenses, research and development expenses? For example, a company allocate 10 crores of rupees for research and development. What kind of activity it is? This through chat. Yes, this is a organization sustaining activity. Because if you want to survive in the market, you have to do research. It is not a unit level, it is not a batch level, it is not a product level, it is not a customer level. But if a customer demands, for example, one American company asks us to develop a particular type of test tube, right? So we develop for them. And once it is developed, we cannot market it to outsiders. We have to sell it to the customer. So it is a customer level. So the cost you are incurring, you have to recover it from that customer. You cannot allocate it among other products or units, right? So that we do in the case of activity-based costing, and based on that we find out the cost of different products. So today we will be doing this question number 1, right? And I just want all of you to go through the question, giving 2 minutes time. Then we will have a little bit of discussion and then we'll solve it. Yes, Aliva.
Sir, how do we recover the sunk cost? Is it from the margin only?
Can you give me one example of sunk cost?
So like investment for starting any business.
Investment.
Sir, sunk cost has no future value, right? So how we will get that money? It will be no use for us now. It's just an investment. That's why it's sunk cost. So it will be not going to be recovered in any way.
Okay, first of all, we have to understand sunk cost. Okay, sunk cost is see, if you recall while doing that first chapter, na, the category I had taken for this sunk cost, relevant cost. So the category was cost from decision making point of view. Okay, so these costs will be taken from decision making point of view, not from estimation. When you do cost estimation, you never consider one particular cost as whether it is relevant, irrelevant, or sunk cost, decremental cost, incremental cost. That is when you comparatively do comparison and you have to take a decision. There you apply the concept of sunk cost. Okay, because here in this case, the resources which are consumed, we are considering it as part of our cost, right? So no sunk cost will come here. Either no sunk cost will come here, or the concept of sunk cost will not be applied here.
Sir,
Okay.
in the traditional costing method, will there not be sunk cost?
No, there will not be any sunk cost, right? Sunk cost is like historical cost. Okay, for example, when we apply this sunk cost concept, when we say that, for example, I'm telling you, I had a petrol engine car, okay, which I had purchased it for 3 lakhs. Now today I have to take a decision whether to continue with the petrol engine car or to convert it into a diesel engine car, right? And if I convert it into diesel engine car, I have to incur another 50,000 rupees cost. And the benefit I will have, I will save 10 rupees per liter or per 10 kilometers. Per 10 kilometer, I will save 10 rupees. Okay. And I estimate that in a year, I will run it for, say, 20,000 kilometers. Okay. So my decision will be based on, if I run 20,000 kilometers and per 10 kilometer I will save, how much I said, 10 rupees. So 20,000 kilometers I will be saving 20,000 rupees, and here I will be incurring for a cost of 50,000, and so I in two and a half years I will be able to recover this 50,000. So this is how I will take the decision. Am I taking the 3 lakh rupees into consideration? No. Okay, that is a sunk cost. That's a sunk cost. That's a dead cost. So the concept of sunk cost we will not be applying here, because here whatever cost we are incurring, that we are taking into consideration to find out the cost of a job, product, or service, right? How much cost we are incurring, right? So those costs are like opportunity cost. Those costs are from decision making point of view. We take those costs into consideration. Okay, all right. So here in this question, this is a what it is called, transport kind of company, where normally if we see the activities they are doing, we can divide those activities into 4 categories. Okay, and if anybody is having some kind of experience on this field, can tell me if there will be any other category, any other activity. Okay, travel. The second one is pickup delivery. The next one is customer service and other. For example, you take Ola or you take Uber. The activities they do, they have their vehicles, right? And those vehicles and the driver are engaged in travel work or pickup and delivery. They will have a call center or reception where people will be providing, interacting with the customer, right? Apart from that, they will have one administrative office. They will have other activities, right? Which is not driven by anything. So other activities are their organization sustaining activities. Okay. Now, if you see this travel means traveling from one place to other, right? So from Bhubaneswar, somebody is hiring the car to go to Puri. So there is traveling expenses. But apart from traveling, your vehicle, which is having at this depot, from here you go to the customer's place, pick up him, and then you go and deliver, or the customer gets down at Puri at a particular hotel or somewhere. So there you spend some time when the customer leaves the place and all those things. So a driver or guards, those who are there, they used to spend time on traveling and then on pickup and delivery. Most of their time goes for this. Okay, so travel activity is this activity which is called travel, and the expenses we incur for paying it to driver, for fuel, putting fuel in the vehicles, the use of vehicles, their depreciation happens. So these are the expenses you incur for traveling. So travel is a cost pool where you have different costs. Like as I was saying earlier, if I make a bucket of machining, all machine related expenses will come, whether it is depreciation, whether it is maintenance, whether it is power consumption. Okay, similarly, when I take this traveling, for traveling, I found that traveling is a bucket where costs are incurred for driver, incurred for petrol and diesel consumption, incurred for depreciation of vehicles. Okay, so your traveling cost will be consisting of these three. And traveling cost, what is the activity that drives the traveling cost? That drives means that increases or changes the traveling cost. What is that activity? Miles run, miles or kilometers run. If running increases, running of vehicle increases, the traveling cost will increase. In this question, this is already given. The activity measures are miles for travel cost. Number of pickups and deliveries for pickup and delivery cost. Number of customers for customer service cost. The other cost pool has no activity measure. This is organization system. Activity. So what we have to do, but the expenses we incur like this: driver wages, how much we have paid; petrol, diesel, we consumption, vehicle depreciation, customer representative salary, office expenses. This is how we incur the expenses. But you cannot find out a driver for these expenses. If you find out, then you don't need to divide it into different activity level. Then we found that these are the 4 activities. Traveling is an activity where I have to spend salary to driver. Fuel consumption is there, depreciation of machine. And then we observed that 7,20,000 drivers' wages which we have paid, driver is actually spending his time for 3 things. One is during travel and pickup and delivery. And little time is also spent for interacting with the customer. He is not possibly not finding the place where he has to pick up the customer, so he has to phone call, repeated calls. This you can very much observe in the case of Uber and Ola, right? If your place is not easily accessible, so a lot of time spent by the driver for identifying or arriving at your place. So this 7,20,000 which is given to driver and with card wages for the year or for the month, this is how it is spent. 50% is for traveling, 35% is for pickup, delivery, customer service. So what I will do, I will divide this 7,20,000. Okay, I will divide this 7,20,000. For traveling, 3,60,000, 50%. 2,52,000 is for pickup. 36,000 is for customer service. 18,000 is for other.
So
10%. Okay, sorry.
10%.
72,000 and 36,000. Okay. Then next one is vehicle operating expenses. Can you tell me what will be vehicle operating expenses?
So repair and maintenance.
Fuel and repair maintenance. Okay, fuel and repair maintenance. And this fuel and repair maintenance is because of traveling, mostly because of traveling. So this 2,80,000, 70% will be for traveling. 70% is coming.
1,96,000.
1,96,000. 5% is for pickup and delivery. 14,000. Customer service is 0 because customer doesn't drink any petrol and needs any maintenance. Okay, so 0% is allocated. Petrol expenses 0% for customer service. 25% because this vehicle is also used or kept at the depot, and from the depot it comes to the office, and there 25% maintenance and fuel expenses are incurred. So 56
70,000.
70,000. Yes. Vehicle depreciation 1,20,000. So that 1,20,000 you divide it among vehicle depreciation, 60% traveling, 15% here, 25% other. Okay. Customer representative salary. Customer representative salary means your receptionist. One small example, your receptionist. 90% of his time, her time is spent on customer service, that is interacting with the customer, taking the feedback and all those things. And 10% for rest of the documentation work. Okay, so this 1,60,000 will be divided between these two, 1,44,000 and 16,000. We will allocate all these expenses do these 4 activities, and it's not easy. It's not that easy. You need a lot of observation, right? You have to talk to people, you have to talk to manager, you have to talk to driver, and you have to find out an average standard. After doing, you find that your traveling cost is say 10 lakh in a year. Your pickup delivery cost is 3 lakh in a year. I'm just taking an example. Now, what is the driver? For travel cost, the driver is miles. Divided by the estimated miles you are planning to run your vehicle. You're estimating for, because it is completely on estimation. You cannot wait till the end of the period and then ask that the customer that you go now, I will charge once I calculate. You can't do that. So you estimate that in a year, your cars will run for 50,000 kilometers, and based on that estimation, you have. So per kilometer, you will be charging 20 rupees for traveling cost. Similarly, for pickup, you divide it by the number of pickups. How many pickups you are planning? Number of customer. Okay, so it's not that easy. In many of the cases, what you have to do, you have to take it from the historical figure. Last year, how many kilometers, how many cars you are having, how many drivers you are having, and based on that estimation you do it. And still estimation can go wrong sometime. Okay, so but this is how you calculate the cost in the case of activity based costing. So what we have done in this question, we have only allocated to different cost pools. The rest of the things we are not learning in this question. That is dividing it by the activity major or activity driver, finding out the driver rate, and then if a customer is saying that he wants to take your car on rent to Puri. Okay, so from Bhubaneswar to Puri, but at 2 places he has to pick up 2 of his friends. Okay, so that then you will estimate your cost and you will ask that this much you have to pay. Okay, so this is called first stage allocation. When you divide it to different cost pool, this is called first stage allocation. Question number 1 and question number 2 are of similar type of question where you have to do just the first stage allocation. Second stage allocation, that means driver rate you are not finding out. That we will be learning it in the rest of the questions. So what I will do, I will send it to you in that what it is called Google Classroom. I'll put it there. Yes, Bhaskar, you are asking for answer or something, no? Yeah, previous questions. Yeah, questions I will be, by this weekend, I will be giving you questions from chapter 1 to some of the questions so that you can practice. Okay. Which one? Last class discussion question.
So if you are given this problem in the exam, what we do is basically add up all the mean the total travel cost pool like that, right?
Abhik, I'm unable to hear you actually. There is some problem with your mic, possibly.
So he is asking that if we get this question in the exam, then what we have to do? Like we have to just calculate the values and
Yes. If you get this question, you have to only calculate the values for different cost pools. But I will try to give a questions where you will have more things like I'll be having a customer there and wants to have this kind of journey from one place to other. How much you will be asking him to pay, right? So I'll add more points there in the question so that the question will become a complete questions and you apply your understanding there. Okay, but if this question comes, you have to answer this much. And I have also asked, if you ask me, then I will give. See, don't worry for exam. Huh? Just worry for learning. Huh? So you learn. Question or answers? No, question is there. Na? Chapter 2, I already have shared with you, I think. Chapter 2, I already have shared
Yes, sir,
with
it
you.
is there in the that PDF.
Google Classroom, it is there. So you can go through. And there are
Can you-
few other questions that also you can practice. Few
you
more
share-
additional questions I'll be giving. Okay. Aliba, are you saying something?
Sir, I was saying that you shared this today's.
Yeah, I already have shared. Answers I normally don't share all the time because I hope that you will be doing on your own. Okay, let me take the attendance. So here I would like to end the class for today.